we're just going to do a very small bit of interactive activity. So we're going to ask you, the audience, to do a little bit. It's only going to involve raising your hands. And some of you who came along to the Stop MFE meeting, where I spoke about a month ago, you would have done this before, but if you could just play along, it would be helpful. Now, I want you to put your minds back to the beginning of this meeting, because his name has been mentioned a couple of times, and you may already have got an inkling of what it's all about. But I'd just like the people to put their hands up who know of Jay Abatan. Right, well, that's a pretty good response rate, and I'm pleased to see that, because we are here in Brighton and Hove. But now, sorry, if you could just keep your hands up. Of those people, I'd like you to now only to put your hands down if you were at the Stop MFE meeting a month ago. Right, so that's a few less of you. And I'd also now like you to put your hands down if you're a member of PCS. Right, so perhaps about half of you weren't at the MFE and you're not a member of PCS. And so we've got a lot less people now who've got their arms up. Now you can put your hands down, sorry. Now, I'd like the audience again to consider putting their hands up if they've heard of Stephen Lawrence. And I think we're all agreed there we've got a 100% response rate in the audience. So perhaps about half of the audience, without a prompt from Stop MFE or PCS, had heard of Jay Abatan, but all of us had heard of Stephen Lawrence. And I'd just like to take a moment to reflect on those different response rates. As you heard earlier from Mark, sitting beside me here is Michael Abatan, and he's our final speaker tonight. Michael, as you might have deduced, is the brother of Jay Abatan. And Jay was a PCS member who was killed in central Brighton in 1999 in a racist attack. 4 men were promptly identified after that attack, but have never been prosecuted for it. The question remains, was institutional racism a factor in the inquiry into Jay's killing, and does institutional racism remain a factor in the fact that there hasn't been any sort of jury trial of those men? Michael founded Justice for Jay to campaign for Jay's killers to be brought to justice, and it took a long time and a lot of campaigning on Michael and the family's behalf for an inquest to be held into Jay's death. That inquest was held in October 2010, and as was widely expected and predicted, it did find that Jay was unlawfully killed. Since then, there hasn't been much publicity, and we're not really sure, I say we, I mean the public, what's been going on. But we hope to hear now from Michael what has been going on and whether he's got anything to update us on. Michael.
Thank you very much for inviting me here. The first thing I want to say is, with every victim, you can ask the question of, what do you want? Do you want justice? Do you want the people that actually did what they did to Jay, or they did to someone, to be punished, or just anyone to be punished? They will all tell you they want the person that actually did the deed to be punished. My fight for justice for Jay has taken me 13 years now, and we're a little bit into getting justice for Jay, but the authorities are unwilling to get justice for Jay for reasons that they would not share with me, but I can sort of like make a guess. And I just want to let you know, a number of people know Justice for Jay and the campaign, but I just wanted to let you know who Jay was. Jay was 11 years older than me, and he was attacked when he was 42 on the 29th of January 1999. He used to work for the Inland Revenue. He worked for the Inland Revenue for 18 years. Very law-abiding, hard-working person. He used to train people in karate, so he had a black belt. So he was capable of actually protecting himself if he needed to. Now, what happened that night was a total surprise. he still had his hand in his pocket, and he was hit. Now, when he fell, I was also, when I went to go and help him, I was hit as well. And they started beating me up. I was thinking that they were not beating him up. But when I went to see him, what I saw shocked me. The injuries to his face and the back of his head was severe. Now, all along, Sussex police, well, initially when it happened, he was in hospital, they said to me that the men that did this did not mean to do this, it was an accident. Now, this was before Jay died. Now, alarm bells were ringing. They didn't take pictures of Jay's injuries. They didn't do a catalogue of things. They didn't take any pictures of me as well, because I had injuries. Now, I was asking questions quite early on in the investigation, and the response I got was, do not disturb what we're doing. You're going to ruin the case. Do not ask questions. Now, we now know that a catalogue of failings happened, and we had the police tribunal, and a few police officers sort of like left Sussex police to not face the tribunal process. I was restricted with what I could. We didn't actually have any. We weren't allowed legal representation at the tribunal, so it was useless. Now, the whole thing is to get justice for Jay. So I've been fighting for more information, like the Avon and Somerset report that came out, and they denied that to me because of national security. I got it finally, 3 years later. There's nothing in the report to do national security. I mean, I used to work for 14 years for Her Majesty. Jay used to work for Her Majesty for 18 years. Sussex police have always said that the people that did this were professional family law abiding people, and that to say that meant that we weren't. Okay? So it's actually treated Jay's family differently. But we just wanted to know what happened. Okay, so after the Avon and Somerset report and Sussex police, I remember Sussex police saying that there wouldn't be an inquest for Jay. And I thought that strange, because the amount of blows to his face, and he died in a public, he was attacked in a public place, he should get an inquest. So I wrote to the coroner, and she said that I had to persuade her to get an inquest for Jay. I did persuade her with the help of the PCS union, and we had a meeting with her. It was a very tense meeting, but she agreed, and we had the inquest. As you know, there's no public funds for inquests, so the money had to come from partly PCS union and partly my family. And it was quite a lot of money to come up. But we did it, and we went and did the inquest. We were successful to get an unlawful killing verdict. That was 2 years ago, coming up to 2 years ago. And I was shocked that Sussex police at the inquest made sure that all the hospital doctors were paraded in that inquest, and they were asked questions repeatedly. Did you cause Jay's injuries to his face by resuscitating him? They were trying to pin Jay's death on the hospital staff. I thought that was deplorable. And can you imagine how many consultants came, and they weren't doing their job that day? I mean, that was just a waste of taxpayers' money. Sussex Police had the opportunity to ask questions to the men that killed Jay, but they chose not to ask questions. Now, I didn't understand why. Now I know is that they want this case to go away because they want to make sure that it's just one blow to Jay's face. Now, the medical experts, there was always medical evidence, and the medical experts came to the inquest and told us that Jay was hit a number of times to his face. They actually showed a kicking motion to say that he was actually kicked when he was on the floor on his forehead. Now, if that's not intent, when someone's unconscious on the floor, to kill someone, to actually cause them serious harm, then you know, I don't know what is. Now, the Sussex Police, it took them 1 year to, there was a man that came at the inquest and said that he was one of the 4 men in a taxi and said that he did overhear a confession, and luckily it was Graham Curtis. They were trying to pin it on just one person, Graham Curtis. It took Sussex Police over a year to actually see this chap, Nicholas Goddard, his name is, and I just think that was. I mean, why on earth does it take over a year after the inquest before you actually bring someone in, a witness, or someone that can actually break the case? Now, I just know that this man had my blood all over his jeans, all over his trousers. Now, I don't think he knows that, but he was in that close proximity to me when I was being kicked. How did he get my blood on his trousers? He wasn't a witness. He was part of what happened to Jay. I've written the Sussex Police a number of letters, and they haven't replied to me. We want to know exactly what the delay is, why, what is happening. What I need from you, from everyone really, is to put pressure on Sussex Police to write to your local MPs to say, well, Jay's family have been really patient. We've waited 13 years. We've been pushing, but we've been, we haven't been out of order. We've respected the rule of law. We know that it's going to take time. But why has it taken so long after the inquest to actually move further on? Now, after the inquest, we did have a meeting with Sussex Police. And in that meeting, it was revealed, after 13 years, that there was a police officer sitting with the men that killed Jay. It was a serving police officer sitting with the group that night. Now, that puts a complete different complexion of things. Where was this serving police officer when Jay was attacked? Has a statement been taken from him? I haven't seen the statement. What is his name? All these questions need to be asked. I mean, I just think that we haven't actually scratched the surface of what actually happened to Jay, and we're 13 years on. We need the Home Secretary to take the case off Sussex Police and give it to another force, independent, to actually look at it and put it in the Home's computer, get this thing going, and find out what connections. Did Jay's killers know Jay? That is another question. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
encourage you all, if you're not already familiar with the website, there is a website. It's www.justiceforj.co.uk,